Hello everyone, welcome to Nacho Television from Ankara in Turkey. My name is Sauda Muganga. I'll bring to you our news headlines. We start our news from Istanbul, where the largest mosque was opened. Various shots of the Jamlica Mosque were taken from Jamlica Hill yesterday in Istanbul city. The Jamlica Mosque will be open for public, and the first adhan, a call to prayer, at the mosque was recited this morning, which marks the Laylatul Rahabi, observed on the first Thursday of the holy month of Rajab. Hundreds of Palestinian women demonstrate against the so-called deal of the century, a back-channel U.S. Middle East peace plan yesterday in Gaza City. Demonstrators also demanded reconciliation between rival Palestinian factions, Hamas and Fatah, and condemned Israel's decades-long occupation of Palestinian land. We came today to emphasize the role of women in the Palestinian national cause. Itmar Hamada, a member of the General Union of Palestinian Women, said at the demonstration, which was held 2 days before International Women's Day, adding that we are also calling for the unification of Palestinian ranks because our only fight should be win Israel's occupation. Hamada also stressed the need to oppose Washington's back-channel U.S. peace plan by any means necessary, calling on Arab states to refrain from normalization relations with Israel. Hamas and Fatah have remained at odds since the former seized the Gaza Strip from the latter in mid-2007. In 2017, the two factions signed a reconciliation agreement in Cairo in hopes of ending years of division. The agreement, however, was never implemented due to long-standing differences between the two movements. Four years after it was gutted by a fire set by PKK terrorists, a historical mosque in southeastern Turkey will reopen for worship on Thursday. Restoration of the 500-year-old Fatih Pasha Mosque, which was damaged when the PKK dug trenches, set up barriers and denoted explosions in Diyarbakır's Sur district, has been completed, according to Abdullah Çiftçi, a local official. Abdullah said the mosque was restored at a cost of 10 million Turkish liras, equivalent to $1.8 million, in line with its original structure. Çiftçi added, while expressing pleasure at reopening such an important mosque for worship, that the mosque was one of the first marks of the heritage of the Ottoman Empire, as well as being a symbolic structure of Diyarbakır.
Diyarbakır'ın sembol eserlerinden olan Kurşunlu Camii ayrı bir öneme sahip.
The Antarctica, as the oldest continent on Earth, has served as a scientific research zone since the signing of the 1959 treaty. Turkey's Third National Atlantic Science Expedition team completed its mission on the icy continent after 30 days of scientific studies. For a month, a group of 24 scientists stayed in Betanzos, a Chile-flagged ship on an area of 300 square meters, 3,229 square feet, and some 14,000 kilometers away from Turkey. Scientists worked at temperatures below zero and conducted more than 12 hours of field work per day on the continent. They also spent time exercising, watching movies, reading books, and chatting when inside the ship. Scientists kept in touch with their relatives in a limited time via emails and satellite phones once a week. Shahika Egemen, a Turkish freediving world recorder holder, said it was one of the most special moments in her entire sports career to represent Turkey in the foreign continent. A member of the expedition team, Murat Ateş from Turkish Naval Forces, said, "We have carried out our works under difficult conditions, but we ultimately succeeded." In early February, the Turkish team traveled to Antarctica as part of the Third National Atlantic Science Expedition to spend 30 days, which was supported by the Turkish presidency, the Industry and the Technology Ministry, and İTÜ's Polar Research Center, along with other Turkish universities.
Kimi arıyorsun? İsmi oğlumu arıyorum. Alo. Canım. Duyuyor musun? İnşallah çarpalım. Alo. Baba nasılsın? Selamünaleyküm.
A delegation of Orthodox Jewish rabbis expressed solidarity Wednesday with the U.S. representative Ilhan Omar after she was criticized for making anti-Semitic comments. Members of the anti-Zionist Jewish group New Torah Katra International came to Omar's office in Washington, saying they wanted to show their support for the freshman congresswoman. Rabbi Dovin Friedman told reporters that what she said was the voice of Judaism. Friedman said that to confess Judaism with Zionism and to accuse someone of being anti-Semitic because they oppose the occupation of Palestine or the oppression of the people is revolting and it's unacceptable. He also issued a statement expressing support for Omar and her stance on Israel. No one should be attacked for criticizing AIPAC, certainly not the esteemed Congresswoman Omar. She should be lauded for differentiating between Jews and Zionists, he said. Judaism is a religion which teaches serves of the Almighty, while Zionism attempts to transform Judaism into nationalism.
And accuse them of being anti-Semitic is revolting, unacceptable, and it hurts us because it's being done in the name of the Jewish people that she's being accused, and that is false. We have very large neighborhoods. You go to Manhattan, right across Manhattan, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, it's the largest concentration of religious Jews, and there's not one single Israeli flag flying there. And we give our lives for our religion. We are a community that pays fortunes for Jewish education and so forth, and this is something our lives are given over to our religion. And we find this so terrible. Such a tragedy, a travesty of justice, what's being done to her. And they're trying to make an example of somebody who's finally speaking up and not being intimidated by the Zionist lobby and saying, look, I love the Jews and I want to do my best as a representative, a congresswoman, to help the Jewish people. But I don't want to, she's saying, accept the oppression of others or something, and don't confuse the two. She's speaking to the truth. And that's what we're here for, to give her support, to give our blessings, and to encourage her and tell her that we have her back with God's help.
Turkey expects to attract 5.6 million German tourists in the country this year. Culture and Tourism Minister said on Wednesday, speaking to reporters at ITB Berlin Tourism Fair, Mehmet Nuri Ersoy expressed optimism about attracting a record number of tourists from Germany in 2019. Ersoy said there has been a 58% rise in early bookings from Germany for Turkey, referring to the latest statistics. He underlines that Turkey has again become a leading destination for Germany tourists after decline in visitor members in 2016 and 2017. In his speech, he mentioned that this year they were expecting around 5.6 million German tourists to visit Turkey, raising hopes for beating the previous record of 5.5 million visitors in 2015.
Bir açılırsanız, arkadaşlar bir açılırsanız.
Güzel. Efendim Göbekli Tepe, burada bir fotoğraf alabilir miyiz? Başkanım.
Huawei, a telecommunication company, has filed a lawsuit against the US government over a ban that restricts federal agencies from using its products. It said the US failed to provide evidence to support the ban, and the firm also rejected claims it had linked to the Chinese government. The US has restricted the use of Huawei products over national security concerns, and it has also been lobbying allies to shun the Chinese telecoms firm. Huawei is one of the world's largest telecommunications equipment and services providers, and the lawsuit is part of a wider push by the company in recent months to challenge claims of its products that pose security risks. The US Congress has repeatedly failed to produce any evidence to support the restrictions of Huawei products. We are compelled to take this legal action as a proper and last resort, Huawei rotating chairman Guo Ping said in a statement. This ban not only is unlawful but also restricts Huawei from engaging in fair competition, ultimately harming US consumers. Speaking at a press conference in Schengen, Mr. Ping also accused the US government of misleading the public about Huawei and of hacking its servers. Venezuela has given the German ambassador 48 hours to leave the country, accusing him of meddling in internal affairs. Daniel Kreiner was among the diplomats who helped opposition leader Juan Guaido to return to Venezuela on Monday. Germany, which recognizes Mr. Guaido as interim president, says the decision will only escalate tensions. Meanwhile, the US says it is revoking the visas of 77 more people linked to President Nicolas Maduro. They include government officials and their families. Vice President Mike Pence said on Friday 49 other people had their visas revoked as part of the US pressure on Mr. Maduro to resign. Mr. Maduro has accused Mr. Guaido of trying to account a coup against him with the help of US imperialists. Rallies for and against the government are due to be held on Saturday. In a separate development, Venezuela arrested American journalist Cody Wade and his Venezuelan assistant on Wednesday morning. The reporter, who works for several US outlets, was released later in the day and is being deported. Several local and foreign journalists have been briefly detained while working in Caracas in recent weeks. Some have since been deported. Turkey is set to join the world's top 10 economies by 2030 to 2050, according to several studies, the head of Turkey's Strategy and Budget Directorate said on Wednesday. Turkey's potential is bigger than other countries' growth potential, Naci Akbar told a conference at Bayburt University in northeastern Turkey. He reminded that from 2001 to 2018, Turkey climbed up the ladder from the number 23 to 17 in terms of gross domestic product, and from number 18 to 13 in purchasing power parity. Adding that Turkey's exports also soared from $36 billion in 2002 and $168 billion in 2018. Its geographical position is a huge opportunity for the country. He stressed, as it lies in close proximity to Africa, the Gulf countries, the Central Asian Turkey republics, Russia and Europe.
Proje teklifinde bulunacak. Bu da son derece önemli. Hem YÖK tarafında bir sanayi işbirliği programımız var, hem de TÜBİTAK tarafında bir sanayi işbirliği programı.
Hundreds of passengers were stranded at Kenya's main international airport after a strike caused major disruption to flights. The military was deployed to try to overcome the industrial action at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta Airport. By late afternoon, Kenya Airways said most of its affected departing flights had been rescued. However, some regional flights have been cancelled. Airports in Mombasa, Eldoret and Kisumu were also affected. Workers are unhappy about plans to merge the airport authority and the national airlines. The government condemned the strike as illegal and Kenya Airline Forces personnel were brought in to help screen passengers. Earlier, there were clashes at Nairobi Airport between demonstrating workers and paramilitary riot police. Officers used batons and tear gas to disperse strikers, some of whom were injured. A number of stranded passengers needed medical treatment after inhaling tear gas. A key figure in organizing the strike, Kenya Aviation Workers Union Secretary General Moses Ndemba, was arrested. Just weeks after the video was filmed, Mohammed Al-Jaleh, known to everyone as Allah, watched helplessly as his cat sanctuary was first bombed, then chloric gassed during the intense final stages of the siege of Aleppo. Most of his 180 cats were lost or killed. Like thousands of other civilians, he was trapped in the eastern half of the city under continuous bombardment from Russia and Syrian fighter jets. As the siege tightened, he was forced from one Aleppo district to another, witnessing unimaginable scenes of devastation. Yet throughout, he continued to look after a few surviving cats and to rescue people injured in the bombing, driving them into underground hospitals. After a brief recapitulation in Turkey, he smuggled himself back into Syria, bringing a Turkish cat with him for company, and established a new cat sanctuary, bigger and better than the first one in Kafr Naha, a village in opposition-held countryside west of Aleppo. Argentinian teachers marched during a demonstration to demand wage increases on Wednesday in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Jaco, Misiones, Formosa, Corrientes, La Pampa, Neuquén, Río Negro, Chubut.
The former Iraq Prime Minister, Haider al-Abadi, speaks to the media as he arrives at the American University of Iraq Suleimani for the 6th annual Suleimani Forum yesterday in Suleimania, Iraq.
تحمي كركوك وتدافع عن كركوك، وأيضا أهالي كركوك هم مكون أساسي لهذه المحافظة. علينا أن تندمج كل جهودنا بنشر.
A global study has shown that these regions could be awoken by sea level rise. Sea level is directly linked to the amount of carbon these wetlands store in their soil, the team reports in a journal, Nature. Researchers studied the carbon locked away in the cores of wetland mud from around the world. They say that the preservation of coastal wetland is critical for mitigating global warming. The team was led by scientists at the University of Wollongong in Australia. Facebook boss Mark Zuckerberg has said he believes secure private messaging services will become more popular than open platforms. In a blog, Mr. Zuckerberg outlined his vision to transform Facebook into a privacy-focused platform. Facebook owns Messenger and WhatsApp, but message encryption limits its ability to make money through targeted adverts. The social media giant has come under fire for a series of privacy scandals. In 2018, it emerged that the data of about 50 million users had been harvested and passed on to a political consultancy. Thank you so much for for watching our news program. You can check our social medias of Nacho Television or send us messages on WhatsApp number written on your screen. My name is Sauda Muganga, Nacho Television from Ankara in Turkey. See you soon.